Extremely tough, I think, and thinking about, the children's health in particular, I think that would have been a worry.
Something. Yeah. No. Oh.
Oh, come in! Welcome to the Holst Victorian house. Do you know much about Emma Smith? What do you know about her? She was born in Cheltenham, we have here. It's likely that she was in domestic service before she married. 10 years difference between them, so she perhaps worked for a significant period of time before marrying. Now, this was in the centre of Cheltenham. It was a slum area, it was a very poor area, back-to-back housing, 2 up, 2 down. Several people living in the house, probably up to 8 people, because they had lodgers as well as the family living there. So very, very hard living conditions. Extremely tough, I think, and thinking about, the children's health in particular, I think that would have been a worry. Not forever, actually. It's a bit of a happier interlude. And we have here a directory from Cheltenham at the time. And you can see here Courtney Street, which is a much nicer area of the town. They have become a lot more successful, and clearly their employment had paid well enough for them to move, and they were living in a much more salubrious area of the town. St Paul's, it wasn't middle class, but you're talking about sort of lower middle class, terraced housing, but not a slum area. A much more roomier accommodation. You had parks nearby. It was, it was a much nicer space to be, much nicer area by this point. So we do know that they must have had a happier life, for at least for a while. Tragedy did strike for the family again, and we found this newspaper article. I'm just going to give it to you to have a little read. It shows what happened to them in the 1880s. That's in St Paul's, and that's very close to Pitfall, where the Holst Victorian House is. So just around the corner from here, about a 5-minute walk. So very close. And it's still there. You can go and see it.
This is the 1881 census.
Right.
This is the thing. A seamstress could be someone that worked in the workhouse, churning out 3 garments for a penny every day. Or it could be someone that did it in their back room. But this is one step up from that. This is going from just a seamstress to a dressmaker, which is much more specific. But a dressmaker in Cavendish House, the most prestigious emporium for clothes in the whole of the area. It's probably worth seeing what it was like when Alice was actually there. This one looks like a particular celebration, or it may be that there was an event in the area.
So,
She married a man called William Monckton. He was a saddler. He was deaf as well. She carried on as a dressmaker for some time. So she brought in William's sister, who was deaf, and trained her as an apprentice dressmaker. Because she'd been successful, she was trying to pass that on. 10 years later, into the next census, they had other deaf people living with them as boarders. This went on for at least 10 years, so they took the family on this massive upward climb.
oh. Oh.
Me time I have to be near what that to get that it means parents that will have a parent do the but really topic bit that rất nó Rồi bác ai là như là cái cách bạn này nào But